Hello and welcome to We Women Want, our show where we explore women issues. It's actually now becoming a sort of a support group where we explore issues, we talk to experts, we also celebrate women achievers and empathize with those who need our help and also try and find solutions. But today we have someone who actually epitomizes what the show stands for. She's a fighter, she's a woman who's fighting for her rights, and not just her rights, because I would see her fight as being symbolic for the rights of millions of women who are struggling to be heard and find their rightful space in the corporate world. Joining me, I am very pleased to introduce you to Dr. Vali Arunachalam. She's a nuclear scientist, but today she's also fighting for a legal battle with the Murugappa group for her right to be on the board. She's a family member, but she's denied her rightful place on the board of the group just because she is a woman. I mean, the story cannot get even more stark than this, but I would really like you to explain to us exactly what you're fighting for and what all is being denied to you. I know there is a legal battle going on, but if you could share with us just a bit of what the situation is.
Sure. So I think you summarized it very well. So I've been fighting for the rights of my family branch to be represented in the Murugappa family board.
Sorry if I may interrupt you, can you, rather you do it than me, the Murugappa group is a huge group. It's not,
yes.
It's a 120-year-old group.
Yeah.
A bit about the group, how it was founded and,
Sure. So the group was founded by my great-grandfather and Diwan Bahadur Murugappa Chettiar, and he had 3 sons and daughters. My grandfather was the middle son, and he had 4 sons and 2 daughters. My father's uncle had 2 daughters, and he adopted one of my father's brothers. And then in all of the branches of my father's generation and below, there has always been a son, a male heir, along with daughters. But my father's branch is the only one that has no male heirs.
I see.
So after he passed away in 2017, per his wishes, which was for the family to buy our stake at fair value, we approached the family and we offered it to them. They went back and forth, luring us into thinking they were going to settle the matter, only to backtrack. And this went on for about 3 years, and nothing came of it. And that's when we felt that when every family branch is represented on the board of the holding company, why is it that only our family branch, which is all female, has been singled out? So we asked for representation on the board. The family nominated me, and then en masse they voted against my nomination.
My God.
And it is because I am a woman. It is not because I didn't have the qualification or the credentials. And just for the record, at the time that I applied for the board seat, I had a PhD in nuclear engineering. I had 23 years experience in the semiconductor industry, working for Fortune 500 companies like IBM, Motorola, Texas Instruments, etc. And on the same vein, there have been male cousins of mine that have been inducted to the board, for example, at the age of 23. Just after finishing their master's degree with very little industry experience. So
a 23-year-old with very little experience versus a nuclear scientist, someone who's worked in the semiconductor industry, who's currently a technology consultant, was rejected. Just because you're a woman and he's a man. That's how skewed it is.
I don't see any other reason why. I mean, I think it is capability and credentials that should be what matter to who gets on the board, not gender. And I fail to see any other valid reason as to why my nomination was rejected.
But this group is also based in the south, and that's what I find very even more ironic at the cost of the north is the patriarchy is not so strong over there. We have groups like Apollo, TVS, which are being run by women and and successfully run, I would say.
Yes, remarkable women and they've made a name for themselves as well as their companies. So we have a lot of very good, strong role models in the South, but the doors of the Murugappa Group business have always been shut to the daughters of the family.
For the past 120 years, there's not been a single girl who's been even part of
Not a single daughter in the family business.
And do they give any reason? I mean, or do they say this is a woman? What is the official reason they give for rejecting you?
That's something you have to ask them.
That would be very interesting to know why they unanimously rejected you on what grounds at the end of the day, if not the gender card.
Yes, but I'm a fighter, and of course, you know, I'm human. I was disappointed when I lost the board seat, but I probably felt sorry for myself for half a day. Okay. But then I decided that I have to change things. I have to change the status quo, and that's exactly what my fight is all about, to change the status quo for all women. It is much broader than just this family.
Right.
It is about all the other families where patriarchy is holding back women. When, I mean, there may be women, or there may be men that don't have the dream, they don't have the ambition, which is fine. That is their personal preference.
Correct.
But when someone has the qualifications, the desire, the motivation, right? I don't think patriarchal mindsets, which in my opinion belong in the 18th century, should come in the way of advancement of either, you know, any human being, you know, whether it be a man or a woman.
No, I couldn't agree with you more, actually, which is why we have this show to, you know, celebrate and support causes like yours, people who are daring to fight and question. That's exactly something that we really need.
And this is, you know, what I want to point out, Priya, is this is not a man versus woman fight, right? There are a lot of men and boys that have been very, very supportive of my fight.
But unanimously, or the whole Murugappa family has said no.
Yes, I mean
unanimously.
But
that's crazy.
There are
people
outside, people in the public, you know, people that I don't even know have come up to me and said, you know, thank you for fighting this fight. So it's not about man versus woman. It is about principle, right? Fairness. That's what my fight is about. Everyone should be given a chance to succeed.
Are there any other girls in the family who, what are they saying to you? Are they supporting you? Are you getting support from the other women in the family?
So far, no.
It's
just my sister and me.
Just your family.
Yes, but you know, you have what I think. You know, I've grown up in a patriarchal family. I know how it is. Because in a patriarchal family, women are groomed in a certain way. They're groomed to not speak up against the patriarchy. And also to some extent, the women are not financially independent. So they are afraid to speak up. But not me. I mean, for me, my guiding light is principles, fairness, and that is the basis of my fight.
A little bit about you also, you know, because it's fascinating to know the person who's fighting this fight. You've also been, you know, you studied nuclear science, nuclear engineering. That's another male-dominated field. It's not just this, you know, you've been taking on male bastions every step of your life, it seems.
It's not like I'm taking on. It's just that I always pursue my passion. And as a child growing up in Chennai, I was just fascinated by nuclear science. My father was a civil engineer. We used to visit Kalpakkam, the nuclear power plant there. My father had friends there. And that's where my fascination with nuclear science started, because, you know, I would see the twinkling lights of Chennai in the distance. And I used to wonder, you know, how these tiny atoms can power an entire city. And And I think to some extent, if I reflect back, even this fight that I'm fighting is a David versus Goliath fight. So, and it's like, I compare it to the atom powering cities, you know. The small is powerful and can do a lot. And so that's how my fascination with nuclear science started. And then once I started, and I just got so engrossed in it, and I just kept going and got my PhD. But interestingly, the first job that I got was in the semiconductor industry. And I was a little taken aback. It's like, why would they want to hire a nuclear engineer? But it just goes to show the power of technology, because some of the research that I had done as part of my PhD thesis could be adapted for the semiconductor industry. And at that time, they were undergoing a huge transition, and they needed to incorporate some of the kinds of work that I had done in the nuclear industry. So that's how I got my foot in the semiconductor industry. And then after that, there was no stepping back, because it was just like this Pandora's box of, you know, amazing areas to explore. And I just stuck with it and worked I started off in R&D and then went on to manufacturing, and then also did a lot of technology transfer between continents, Europe, Asia, America. And then finally I went into CapEx management.
So you are more than qualified to handle, for your place on the board, really, at the end of the day. But in your nuclear, when you were studying, in the class also, were there many girls? What was the equation ratio like for boys and girls?
I would like to say I had 25. We were in a class of 25. I had 24 brothers.
You were the only girl.
But interestingly, in my entire 5 years in the PhD program, I never experienced gender discrimination. Like I told you, the other 24 were like my brothers. They were very, very collegial. I never felt like the only woman in a class of 25. And even in the semiconductor industry, I didn't experience any gender discrimination. Although there were, I was not the only one. There were a few other women, and now there are many more. But I didn't.
When was this? This was you're talking about?
This was in. I entered the semiconductor industry in 1996.
Okay.
Yes.
So I also want to talk to you about how important do you see, in terms of being financially independent for a woman, not your case, but generally, even women with less, from a low income background, but financial independence, how important, what premium would you put it at?
Yeah, I think financial independence is extremely important. And it all depends like what a woman wants, right? If they want to be financially independent, of course they need to strive for that. In my case, I was not really striving for the financial part of things. I basically just am driven by passion, and but the semiconductor industry pays well.
Not your case, but by and large, because you've done a lot of work at this whole gender inequality also,
But I do think that it helps a woman's advancement if they are financially independent, because when you're not, then there are so many other power plays that can prevent you from achieving your dreams.
And also, this whole thing that, women in the corporate, of course, there are a lot of women in the corporate world, that part is increasing, as we talked earlier. But what does a woman bring to the boardroom or to the corporate office? And where does she score over men?
I mean, I can tell you this from first my personal point of view, and then also from the research that's been done. So from my experience in industry, what I found is that women have the innate ability to multitask, right? Because at home, they are dealing with at any one time a multitude of issues, you know, whether it be in managing the house, managing the children, managing the kitchen, and ensuring nothing goes up in flames. But jokes aside, they are inherent multitaskers, and in the workplace, that is a huge benefit, right? Because you are able to handle so many different work streams and do it in a very calm manner. Right? I think that is a big plus. And also I think women tend to be more collaborative. There is a combination of empathy as well as the aggressiveness, which I think which you need, especially when you get to the higher levels of management. You do need to be assertive. I wouldn't use the word aggressive, but assertive.
Yes, because there's always, you know,
there can be a negative connotation to that.
Correct.
But you know, you need a certain level of assertiveness, but women blend it very well with empathy, and I think that goes well with the people that you manage, because they really appreciate that. So
the
I
role
think
of
in terms
nurturer, which comes naturally.
Right. So I think, you know, in terms of team building, collaboration, and also risk taking, I think women step back, analyze the risks versus the rewards in a lot more detail, and these are all from my personal experience. And there have been a lot of studies that have been done by consulting groups like the Hay Consulting Group, McKinsey's. Have looked at, you know, what are the unique skills that women bring to the table, and it's all around consensus building and collaboration and managing risk and just being better people managers.
Which is true. But what are some of the stereotypes that are associated with women, and have you come across any in your professional life?
So like I told you, even though I was in male-dominated fields, I didn't really experience gender discrimination. But in terms of stereotypes, I think women have to be very careful. At least I've had to be very careful, especially at the management level, on how to balance assertiveness, because when assertiveness comes from a man, it is viewed as, you know, normal. But when assertiveness comes from a woman, it is viewed, I think, with a different lens. So I think, you know, I've had to balance that out carefully. And the other really interesting thing is, like, I wouldn't, in my career as a scientist, I have peer reviewed many research papers, and I've been in email communications with people as Dr. Arunachalam or Valli Arunachalam. And then when I go to a conference and meet them for the first time face to face, there's a little shocked look on their face because they were expecting to see a man.
I can imagine.
So I think that's a stereotype, because especially in a high technology field where it's kind of rarefied at the top, they expect to meet a man.
Correct.
But they're pleasantly surprised when they meet a woman. But you know, it's just that initial thing.
Yeah,
after that, it's fine. You know, after that, it's like tech talk, and you just get carried away with that.
In fact, the semiconductor industry is something that's coming of age in India also, which is, you know, so in that sense, having you there would be an asset, I know, apart from all the stereotyping that's going on. But in terms of, you know, being a woman leader, is there is also a view that women don't tend to help other women. I mean, look at this. In your case is an example where women from your family cutting across branches could have come, because, you know, this is something that's going to stand in everybody's favor.
So I don't think I would generalize that. For whatever reason, you know, each one, you know, has the right to do what they feel. If they don't feel like supporting someone, that's their right. Right? But I have received tremendous support across the board from both women and men, and I'm extremely grateful for that.
That's in fact good to know, because there is, that's what the men throw at us, that, why should we support you when women don't support other women? So that's...
Well, I mean, what I tell people is, like, look around you, look at your nieces, your daughters, your friends' daughters. Would you want something like, would you want them to go through something like this? Right? So I think, it impacts men as well. I'm sure they don't want to see their aunts or their female relatives treated that way.
No, fair enough. And also in terms of, what are the other fields that you feel that are opening up for women which were not there, say, maybe in the 90s when you were looking for options?
I think right now the entrepreneurial landscape is really, blossoming. There are so many, especially in technology, fintech. There's so many different avenues you can pursue, and there are a lot. I know that when it comes to entrepreneurs as well, that it's rarefied for women. Not many women entrepreneurs, but there are a lot of venture capitalists that want to support women entrepreneurs. Like in any industry, it will take time, but I think there are a lot of talented young women out there that have dreams, and I think they should certainly chase after their dreams.
Now's the time to do what you want to do.
Yes, yeah, exciting times.
Look at you, nobody would guess it, but since you told me that you're a grandmother, that was but you have a son, one son?
Yes.
Would you ask him to join the business, or has it ever occurred to you, let him go take the place in the board, but you were clear that you want to send a message, which is why you're fighting this fight?
Well, the Murugappa family only has permitted sons and sons of sons.
Oh, so it goes...
Yeah, not... the door remains firmly shut to the daughter and any offspring of the daughter, whether... forget about the daughter of the daughter, but even to the son of the daughter.
Is not. So it goes down generations, really.
Yes.
What does your family say, your son say, in terms of your support? How is he supporting you, in what way? And
my nuclear family is of tremendous support to me.
Well, and I think after hearing about your fight on the show, I'm sure you'll find a lot of supporters from our viewers also, because really in this show, this is the kind of stories we want to bring out. These are the kind of fights and struggles that we want others to be aware of, that there are people fighting the good fight, and and it's just not for you, as you said, it's for a billion other women who are also struggling to find their space in the corporate world. But thank you so much for coming and talking to us, and that's it for now. We'll come back again next week, same time, but until then, have a good weekend.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.